I'd like to welcome you back to our study in the book of First Corinthians. We just finished yesterday talking about marriage out of the 7th chapter. And let me just say this again. If you're married, if you're single, if you're widowed, go to the 7th chapter and read the 7th chapter of 1 Corinthians. It is chock full of advice to those who are married, to those who are single, and to those who are widowed. And then, of course, go and listen to all of our videos on the 7th chapter of the book of 1 Corinthians. And I believe with all my heart that it will bless you and it will help you to have a great, strong, and godly marriage, single life, widowed life. It will just really help you a whole lot. But now, today, we're moving on. We're moving on to the 8th chapter of the book of 1 Corinthians. So the first verse says this: now concerning things sacrificed to idols. What's Paul going to be talking about? He's going to be talking about things that were sacrificed to idols. And he's talking here about something that was a dividing point in the church at Corinth, because some people in the church at Corinth would eat meat that was sacrificed to idols. Some would not eat meat. And how many of you know that when you have a religious opinion that's opposite of someone else, in the middle of that you have the thing called strife and division? And the Apostle Paul now is tackling another problem in the church at Corinth. Now let me go all the way back to the beginning part of our study in the book of 1 Corinthians. And I made this remark: it was the arrogance that caused the problems in the church in Corinth. It was this pride that I know better than you do. I am more sanctified than you are, or you are less sanctified than me, and I have more gifts than you have. And it was constantly this thing of I, and it's called pride, and it's a sin. So Paul now conquers this thing of I eat meat sacrificed to idols, but you don't eat meat. You are missing out. What's he say? Now concerning things sacrificed to idols, we know that you have knowledge. And we're going to talk about knowledge today. We know that you have knowledge, and knowledge makes what? Arrogant. There's that word again, arrogant. I don't know how many times. I ought to look it up. This word arrogance is found in the book of 1 Corinthians. What is the Apostle Paul saying? He's saying knowledge, it makes you arrogant. The Corinthians were so boastful about their so-called knowledge. Knowledge it's a very important thing, but you know what? Knowledge needs to be held in balance. And here in the city of Corinth and in the church at Corinth, knowledge was God. If you knew more than someone else, you were better than someone else. And that was the problem in the church at Corinth, that knowledge produces arrogance. And arrogance is a sin. Knowledge isn't a sin. Get all the knowledge you can get, just don't let it go to your head. Do you understand what the Apostle Paul is saying? Again, we know that we all have knowledge. All of us have knowledge. And knowledge makes arrogant, but love edifies. What does love do? Knowledge makes arrogance. What does arrogance do? Arrogance divides. Arrogance causes strife. Arrogance causes some people to have low self-image, other people to have an extremely high self-image that's just centered around themselves, thinking just about themselves. And it destroys the church. But love comes in. And the word love here is the Greek word agape. And it means a love that gives of itself. A love that presents itself in a way of giving. Many times people will say it's the God kind of love. Well, God is the greatest example of agape love, because God gave his only son, Jesus, to die on the cross for us. Paul says love. What does love do? When you have love in the church, you know what happens? The church begins to build. The church begins to come together. The church becomes strengthened. You see, love is the strengthening power of the church. It is not knowledge. Do you understand? And so Paul continues on, and he says this: if anyone supposes he knows anything, he has not yet known as he ought to be known. Now, let's talk about this word knowledge. The word knowledge is the Greek word ginosko. And the word ginosko, it means to know in present, or to know in a fragmented way, the way that it's used here in the first part of these verses. The Corinthians thought that knowledge was something special. That when they would say ginosko, they thought it meant that I am something special. I have knowledge. And Paul says we all have knowledge. Now, this knowledge was conditioning whether you ate meat sacrificed to idols or not. How many of you know that there's many issues in churches today where people say, well, I know that it's wrong to do that. And all of a sudden, what do we have? We have knowledge that produces arrogance, and arrogance divides the church. Going back to verse number 2, if anyone supposes that he knows anything, that he has this fragmented knowledge of things, that he knows things that comes more from knowing books and education. That's what this word ginosko means. It means to know from a book, to know from education. Now, there's another word called epinosis. In the Greek language, the root of this word is the same as the root in ginosko. Gnosis means know. But epinosis is different. If you're studying the Greek language, epinosis means a complete knowledge, a full knowledge. Now let's go on. What does knowledge do? It makes us arrogant. But the knowledge that comes with love, or love itself, it edifies the church. Now, verse number 3. But if anyone loves God, there's the condition. He is known by God. God knows you. The condition is if anyone loves God. In other words, if anyone is in a relationship with God where he's giving of himself over to God. Again, the Greek word here for love is the Greek word agape. And we see here and we understand here that agape, when we agape God, when we give ourselves to God, then God's love begins to flow through us and we give ourselves to other people. But when we agape God, when we love God, God comes into relationship with us and he knows us from beginning to end. Thank you for watching today. We're going to pick up next week. No, not next week. That's the second time I've done this week. We're going to pick up tomorrow in our study of the book of 1 Corinthians.